Hello out there, a very good evening and a warm welcome to Business Focus. This is your most authoritative business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. My name is Pa Kwesi Asari. We're live on TV3 and also live on your DSTV channel 279. Now, coming up tonight, there is fresh agreement between government and organized labor to include pension funds in the latest domestic debt exchange program. While the Chamber of Corporate Trustees in a statement said it is happy to greenlight participation of its members in its new alternative offer from the government of Ghana for pension schemes. We'll speak to Thomas Kwesi Esso later on the bulletin. Also coming up later, international accountancy firm KPMG says Ghana's media budget will not introduce any additional taxes on businesses and entrepreneurs, but rather focused on enhancing existing tax administration measures. Tonight we'll find out exactly what government has to do to sustain an enabling environment for businesses to thrive and minimize the cost of tax compliance. We're airborne. Call a friend to call a friend. This is Business Focus. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll delve into our subject matter.
The sweet scent of rose in the morning brings me so much joy. Inspired by damask rose and infused with 100% natural rose oil. Introducing new Claysoft Perfume Beats washing powder. It's like bringing a garden with you everywhere with this wonderful perfume. Take a garden with you everywhere you go with Claysoft Perfume Beats washing powder.
When the sun rises, there is hope. While this hope lingers on, the citizens look up to the government, the economy, the national development agenda, and everything in between.
On Ghana Tonight, it's our utmost priority to bring you insightful conversations on the economy, break down the biggest issues while setting the agenda for transformation and national development. The big and important stories are treated from the human interest angle, while the facts and the figures are painted with precision. So now, let's cut the convention and start the conversation here on Ghana Tonight. I am your host, Alfred Okamsi.
Ghana Tonight shows Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
A reminder, you're watching Business Focus, your most authoritative business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. Let me just share with you some international business news that's taken center stage on the BBC tonight, and it's about Zoom, the video communications company whose name became synonymous with remote work during the pandemic. And guess what it's done? It's ordered staff to go back to the office. Now, the firm said it believed a structured hybrid approach was most effective and people living within 50 miles of an office should work in person at least twice a week. Now, this is the latest push by a major firm to roll back flexible working policies. Amazon and Disney are among the firms that have reduced remote work days. Survey suggests that workers are still holding on to the ability to work from home to some degree. That's some interesting news there for you to chew on. Let's hop on Zoom now and speak to Michael Boateng, who's senior manager at international accounting firm KPMG. They've been doing their own analysis of the media budget review that was recently presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and it's instructive to know that the Finance Minister did in fact suggest that they've turned the corner. Mr. Michael Boateng, thank you very much for your time and good to have you on Business Focus.
Thank you.
Let's start off, first of all, by giving us a broad overview of your own analysis of the media budget presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
Thank you. So, and I'm happy you use the word that the minister used the word that the economy has turned around. KPMG, we've done a review or analysis of the media budget, and I want to share my screen so that the audience can appreciate the issues that we're looking at. So, if you look at the budget statement, the media budget statement, which is basically just to give us an appreciation of where we are, looking at what we targeted for the year 2023, considering the IMF program and where the government, where the economy was. It's quite interesting that when you look at the numbers for the first quarter, if you look at GDP, it's around 4.2%, which is quite interesting, looking at the challenges that the economy is facing. However, what is going to instruct you to know that these numbers were actually driven mainly by the service sector and then also the agri sector. The service sector reported around 10.1% growth, and the agri sector reported around 4.8% growth. Unfortunately, you see the industry sector contracting by 3.2%, which is ironic. And I think that's one, it gave us an appreciation of where we are and the areas that we need to focus on in terms of coming out of where we are. Then we also saw inflation actually, hovering around 42.5%. If you look at the numbers and the projections, however, by now we should be looking lower. However, there are other conditions that actually has maintained inflation around 42.5%. However, the expectation is that by year-end, we're looking around 31%, just to see, as of December, we're around 52%. Then you look at one interesting thing about where, in terms of the expenditure, because if you look at where we are, all these things that, we have challenges and everything that we are going through is how to regulate or manage our expenditure. And we all know that the expenditure has actually been driven by, the services of debt and then also payroll, government payroll and others. So, I think the good thing there, the interesting thing is that some of the numbers are good. We look at, from the macro point of view, what, has come up. You look at the expenditure, it's actually, dropped by around 26.3%. That is quite low. I mean, that is, if you should have that, that is very good. But I think you always take a step back and look at this is driven by the debt exchange. The debt exchange that we've had for both international holders and also domestic holders. I think this is what is causing that. That's giving the government room, a room, to defer payment of some of this interest. So I think, this is the general preliminary view. And I think I will just, leave it to you if you want to have any other question.
So you did state in your review that we've seen total expenditure go below the estimated target. It's fallen by 26.3%. And what would you say has accounted for that?
Yes, so if there are actually three drivers that actually accounted for it. One is I indicated the exchange program. So if you look at our history, we've been spending about a third of our revenue and others on the service debt. Therefore, if you are in a position to defer payment on these debts or restructure them, then that gives you enough room, to manage your expenditure. I think that is one of the key things that, we've seen. We also have, you could see that there was also a reduction on CapEx. I mean, that's the capital expenditure. You see that one also was, reduced, or it went down around 52%. So then we look at the rationalization of the goods and services, which are, even though some of them went out of target, but these are the two key components, that actually, has driven the expenditure, to this level. And the expectation is that maybe as we go through the program and others, all these things will be maintained to make sure that, the debt to GDP is actually brought, under control. And then all the other, shocks and all those things that we've experienced will actually be minimized.
So rationalizing expenditure is good because it's in the long term going to help us maintain some level of fiscal consolidation. But On the flip side, don't you agree that it's also going to affect growth? Because if we're not seeing increase in expenditure in government projects, we will not see that spiraled effect on growth eventually.
And that is quite interesting because, where we are looking at the economy, first of all, first come first. You need to stabilize it and then roll out programs to spare it. Because if you take a step back, what that has actually caused where we are is expenditure going out of out of control. And I think that is where we are. Now the unfortunate thing is that as you cut this expenditure, as you rightly indicated, and also raising revenue with the taxes and others, it just has an unintended consequence on business growth, and also just to spread the economy. We all know that the government is the biggest expenditure in the economy. So these are some of the things that we need to look at on a day-to-day basis just to appreciate where we are. But I think on the flip side, if you look at it, where the economy was going from last year, you could see very speculative things were getting out of hand. Inflation moving from around 30% to around 52%, interest rate and all those things. And it's all driven by the expenditure, control expenditure, which all those things. Then I think you need to find a way of controlling it and then looking back to see how best you can now find ways to spread the economy. But I think these are all things that need to be discussed as time goes on to see how the impact.
Right, Michael, I don't know if you still have got anything to share with us on the Zoom. I don't know if you've got any further slides to share with us. Otherwise, I'd like you to take off the slide while we interact face to face.
Sure, I think I'm good. We can continue, and then if anything, I can refer to them.
Right. So on the macroeconomic snapshot that you put together, that the finance minister also talked about, we saw some revisions in the estimated targets. For instance, overall GDP has been revised downwards to 1.5%, non-oil growth rate to 1.5%. End period inflation rate, 31.3%. Let's talk about the overall GDP growth. We saw the first quarter, some 4.2%, pretty much encouraging. But why would government have to revise it downwards to 1.5% end of year? Is that not too low?
Not necessarily. Because even if you look at the year, it was around 2 point something, around 2.8 or 2 point something. That was the target. So when you are coming out of a situation that that we find ourselves in, you need to be careful with how you project. Having a 3 month spare having the 3 month spare in the GDP does not, is not telling us the full story, because we are looking at about a 12-month cycle, and this is only a 3 months. So there are a lot of things that are likely to happen. You should know that you look at the economy, what drives, you look at agriculture, how sometimes all those things, food shortage, all those things may affect the GDP and all this. So there are so many things, that is being projected, or it has been thought through. I think that is why the numbers, are as they are. But there are a lot of things that may likely to come up, because that the program actually is definitely looking at restricting the expenditure, and as you see all those things, definitely, as you rightly said, restricting expenditure definitely may have an impact on GDP. So all those things come into play, and I think that is why the reduction, and then not just being happy and just increasing the expectations.
Right, Michael, just hold on for me. Let me go on to the other line on Zoom. Professor Gachi is also an economist. He joins us live. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and good to have you on Business Focus. I know you've also been analyzing the figures as put out by the finance minister. KPMG have also been doing their own work, sort of analyzing the work, the figures put out by the finance minister. What we're seeing, downward revisions to some of the key targets like inflation, like growth rates, like the primary balance, if you see, for instance, the fiscal deficit been revised to 6.4%, what does it tell you? Especially when, from year to date, we've done about 1.3%.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Well, I think we need to put the discussion into context. The first context is whether we are analyzing the mid-year budget with reference to what happened in 2022, or we are analyzing the mid-year budget with reference to the projections that were made. To a large extent, if you look at it from the perspective of the projection, it means that we are not doing well, except that the debt exchange program has brought some respite to the balance sheet of government. But that also has a negative reflection on some of the indicators. For example, you talk of goods and services, you talk of CAPEX, all these things, if you are seeing them going down, you shouldn't just jubilate because it has a reflection of the efficiency of delivery of government services to the private sector to spare growth.
Well, Prof, just hold on for me, Prof. I don't know if you have some difficulty with your video because we can't see you.
Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And so you started by asking what sort of comparison we're doing, and I would urge you with some bit of comparison with last year, that's 2022. So year to date, half year, we had seen the government do about 10.7% of fiscal deficit, and then it revised it to 6.6%. What we're seeing this year is 1.3% and a revision to 6.4%. So clearly, it appears that a fiscal deficit target for this year, and especially what we've done from January to date, is pretty much good.
Yeah, I think the overall implication of the IMF program is to target some of these indicators. So that is not surprising. But the point I'm making is that there should be a balance between this kind of restriction and growth momentum for the economy, because no matter what you do, it is growth that will define whether or not the economy is turning around or not. So if you constrain expenditure only, but you don't create the space for expansion of businesses, you don't create the space for businesses to take opportunities to allow growth to be seen, then that is problematic. And I'm making particular reference to the goods and services.
That's a very good. That's a very good question, Prof. That's a very good question you raised, because when I speak to KPMG, for instance, and ask them why we're seeing this, slow back in expenditure, they seem to suggest that quite apart from a cutback in the capex, we've also seen governments, renege on some of its financial obligations and interest payments.
Yes, I'm focusing on goods and services and CAPEX for now.
Okay.
CAPEX is the overall driver of growth, and then the services that government offices deliver to the private sector is also very, very important. When that services are not delivered most efficiently, if it affects the growth of the economy. So we need to look at that so that we don't focus on one aspect and leave the other important aspect that is needed for the economy. Then again, if you do debt exchange program, that is trying to dress the balance sheet of the government. But you should also be mindful that it also affects those private people who have to spend money from their returns on the economy, and that money will not be available for them to spend on the economy. So that will also have effect on the growth of the economy. So we shouldn't just be happy that the government balance sheet is clean or is moderate now, but we should also be concerned that on the other side of the equation, there are people who will not be spending money out of their returns whether to invest in productive sector or to consume that to spur the growth of the economy.
You talked about the domestic debt exchange program, and it appears we are slowly moving into a second phase of it. We've recently seen that letter from the Chamber of Corporate Trustees, essentially assuring that pension funds are eligible to be exchanged. What's your own analysis of this, and what would it mean for our targets to bring down this debt to GDP ratio?
Well, I think the principle is that the debt exchange program is largely between the government and the bondholders. So if the bondholders agreed in principle to the debt exchange program, then there is no problem because they have done all their computation, the effect that it will have on the pension funds in their investment drive, etc. They have done that in computation, and they believe that they can allow government to take whatever it wants to take from them in terms of interest cutback, in terms of elongation of maturity. So I do not think that it has any serious implication at this point in time. But what it means is that government's balance sheet will be cleaner more in terms of debt management. But as I said, we are also limiting the ability of the pension funds to do the investment they have been doing in the economy to spur growth. So we are not looking at the other aspect of the equation. So government will look good in terms of the balance sheet because the pension fund have agreed in principle. But the reality is that the pension fund will not have that bulk of money to do the investment that they have been doing usually in the financial sector and in the economy.
Right, stay on for me. Let me go back to Michael, who is with KPMG. Michael, you've suggested in your own analysis that the mid-year budget, as been presented by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta a week ago, did not introduce any additional taxes on businesses and entrepreneurs, but rather has focused a lot more on enhancing existing tax administration measures. What are some of these?
If you look at the if you look at some of the measures that have been taken, one of them is how to operationalize what we call the Exemption Act. So this is an act, Income Tax Act, which is basically to rationalize the process and how we grant tax exemptions and waivers to institutions and projects. So there have been a lot of noise and a lot of criticisms about the way it has been done. Now this law has actually been passed to bring sanity into it. However, there's in tax law we have the regulations that's supposed to give a proper understanding and how this an act will be rolled out. So that is one of the things that is expected, that the rolling out of the Exemption Act in terms of operationalizing it. The Minister of Finance, through the regulations, coming out how to actually operationalize the Exemption Act. There is another area, there's also a lot of school of thought about how governments, running our tax, bilateral agreements, especially when we're looking at double tax agreements and other things. There have been discussions how to make sure that we streamline and review them, or have some level of discussion to make sure that we don't lose out. And I think these are some of the key things, that you find, in the government's, programs in terms of rolling out or enhancing our revenue administration. And I think these are very key because there are a lot of research which have come up saying that government is losing so much money, in terms of tax exemptions and others, more than it gets from loans and funds and others. So I think these are all key things, and I think we will look at how all these laws will be operationalized because they sit on the backbone of how revenue is raised in the country.
Michael Watson is a senior manager at international accounting firm KPMG. Michael, thank you very much for your time, and good to have you on Business Focus. We do appreciate your time and you're joining us on this program. Let me go back to Professor Gachi. who's the investor of Cape Coast Business School. Prof, I'm going to come back to you. We'll take a short break. I'll come back to you for some more thoughts on the 2023 media budget review.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
It is my pleasure to honor a woman who has opened her doors to hundreds of vulnerable children over the years.
Loves me.
A woman who is a true inspiration, a woman who is a national hero.
I want the best for you as your mother. Amen.
A woman by the name of
Mary Ndlovu.
my honor to award you with Community Builder of the Year. I've done everything you've asked. Everything.
I know what it is like to grow up without love. Thank you.
No one will stand in my way.
Isono shows Mondays to Thursdays at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN Reflex Toothpaste.
Right, welcome back to Business Focus. This is your most authoritative business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. We're streaming live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. You can join us with your views, comments and suggestions on our subject tonight. Let's know what you make of our discussion tonight. Gone by, we talked about the media budget review. KPMG, as I mentioned, has been doing its own analysis on the presentation by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. My guest tonight, Professor John Gachi, is with the University of Cape Coast Business School, and Mr. Esso, Thomas Esso, is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Corporate Trustees. They've issued a statement recently assuring of pension funds being eligible for the second phase of the domestic debt exchange program. He joins me live on Zoom. Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas Esso, for your time, and good to have you on Business Focus. You must have been pretty convinced by government's proposal to allow for pension funds to be traded in the second phase of the DDEP.
Well, good evening, and then good evening to your viewers and listeners. Yes, I think that if you look at our statement carefully, we stated in the statement that after the initial DDEP was announced, which we rejected, we didn't go to sleep. We continued to have discussion with government, and we actually brought to the table a technical team who worked with government to arrive at certain objectives that the chamber set. And then if I want to enumerate those objectives. One, it was our objective that any discussions or any result that we'll achieve from the DDEP, sorry, our patrimonial value of our bonds will not be affected. That means that we don't want to experience any losses on the patrimonial value of our bonds. Secondly, we also realize that if we leave our bonds in the old bond formats, and then this new bond becomes tradable, it is likely, or the risk is that our bond in that format will not be tradable on the Ghana fixed income market, which means that, if you have a bond that you cannot trade on the secondary market, that bond is equally a dummy bond in your hand. And so we have to also put before government that even if we have to accept any deal, then we need those bonds that will accept to be tradable on the Ghana fixed income market. Thirdly, also, we're looking at the liquidity of the bonds. Of course, if we continue to hold the old bonds, what it means is that, and as we have all experienced, if the government doesn't pay you the coupons and the maturities, then you are going to suffer liquidity crunch, which means that you will not be getting your coupons on time, and you will not also be getting your maturities, and this will make our operations suffer. And so we were also seeking that if we have to come under any deal, and then we are looking forward to have bonds that can provide us with liquidity. And so the discussions, started around February, and it's been going on. Our technical team has been working the numbers, and then we believe that what we have from government now, which has been enshrined in the estate memorandum of the alternative offer to the pension schemes, meet our objectives. And that is the reason why we have advised our trustees and employees for the scheme to consider accepting the new offer in the DDEP.
So you have said that this is a case-by-case situation. Is that what I get from the concluding part of your statement?
Of course. So there is a governance structure in the corporate trustees where every scheme has a board of trustees, and therefore, since this is a decision that we have been given a green light to, it also behoves on the various board of trustees to also go take or organize their various meetings, the emergency meetings or whatever. Some of them may be their normal meetings. They have to at their meetings conclude and agree to accept it, so that the governance structure of the corporate trustees is also respected. So we can give the leadership, and if you look at our statement clearly, and the industry too is aware, because anytime we have any information, we call them together to discuss the information with them, and they have also done their numbers. So I believe that even though we have given the green light, they have also to go through their governance structures. And I believe that since they are aware of this already, it shouldn't be any problem for them accepting the new offer.
Professor Gachi, is it your understanding that we're making some headway?
Process seem to be more humane, more accommodating of the view of pensioners. Their views have been expressed. They talk about issues that will impair their bond. And from what have been stated on your platform, it means that government is able to accede to what they put on the table. Now it is left with the other structures to adopt that they agree to the DDEP, then that can be effective. So this is how everybody expects debt exchange program to be consummated. And if it's consummated in this manner, no matter the loss that or the haircut that the fund will experience, it is something that is accepted. It is something that they are willing to carry on, and that is most appropriate.
But Mr. Esso, so how soon are we going to see these agreements take effect?
Well, if you read the exchange memorandum, the deadline for acceptance of the new alternative offer is on the 18th of August. And so we believe that various board of trustees of the various schemes should kick in the mechanism now so that by the 18th of August, the process could be completed. And of course, I've had indications that a lot of them are putting in or are doing their notices of invitations to their board of trustees to have meetings within this week. I've had that indication. So I actually believe that the process will kick in. And then since it has also become public, and I believe that a lot of the trustees may have heard the discussions on various media platforms. So I think it should not be a difficult process. And I believe that by the 18th of August, this process should come to an end.
All right, Mr. Esso, I've got to say a big thank you for your time and for joining us here on Business Focus. We really do appreciate your time. Prof, your final words on this?
Well, as I indicated already, the process had been the one that everybody expected from day one, but that didn't happen. But that process is now kicked in with this one. That is appropriate, and the final decision lies with the board. So if they go ahead to approve it, that it means they accept it, and then we move on. But as I said, that will not be the end of the problem of debt management of the country. We still have huge challenges to grapple with. And again, it will not erase the fact that it will not limit the pension funds' ability to do what they have been doing in the economy in terms of investing in the financial sector and also investing in other processes in the country.
When you say we still do have some challenges to grapple with, what exactly are you referring to?
I believe you know that we will come to debt sustainability by 2027 or 2028. What that means is that between now and 2027, 2028, we still have a lot of work to do to manage our debt.
Professor Gachi, thank you very much for joining us here on Business Focus. I appreciate your time on the program. Meanwhile, a financial analyst, Patrick Abankwaba, has cautioned that the participation of pension schemes in the Alternative Domestic Debt Exchange Program could lead to a run on pension institutions, while the Chamber of Corporate Trustees has given the green light for pension schemes to take part in a new Alternative Domestic Debt Exchange Program. But speaking to 3 Business, Patrick Abankwaba called for liquidity for the pension institutions as support for a possible run on their finances.
From the pension fund side, these are people that also have some kind of ties with the government by way of doing business with the government. So they want to use that to support the government. At the same way, not trying to lose value on the bonds that they hold. But there's another side of it, which I saw from their letter, which has to do with the issue of liquidity. Most of the pension houses were not happy to join the earlier one because they were not so much clear on how liquidity will be affected when people go on retirement or people have to liquidate or come for their fund. So if government is going to set up a fund that will support them in liquidity-wise, I think that's okay, and it makes their move a bit okay. But the other side of it has to do with the interest that they're going to lose out. I'm sure most of these pension houses have bonds in the range of about 26% to 30%. With the new arrangement, they are going to earn lower returns on that, which means that their members are also going to get lower returns by way of customers having the returns that they were earlier on enjoying on the bonds that they had through the pension houses. So government is going to now cut off their returns and reduce it for the pension houses. What I think the pension houses should.
Well, interesting there. That's how we conclude Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. We stream live on Facebook. We're also live on your DSTV channel 279. That's all for the program. My name is Parkwesi Asare. Stand by now for News 360, which comes on at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.
Business Focus is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Ago Ghana mambi, God dang baby, you find a mimbanye de omanye. My name is Na Ayili from Asure Frimpongwe, and I am the Greater Accra Regional Representative in this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful. I am a 23-year-old graduate of the University of Ghana, where I studied political science and theatre arts. I am enthusiastic, dedicated, determined, and resilient, with the passion of touching the lives of people in society. I believe it's about time the people of Ghana come together to, if not eradicate, reduce the rate of children on the streets. Because indeed, children are pure souls, beautiful as flowers. Let us give them the space to bloom. Under the umbrella of streetism, my project seeks to focus on helping the children of the streets by putting them in schools and introducing them to skill learning opportunities with invaluable support, of course. Min panyefai, nyefa oshiki aha na ayele, koni inke akekle abagamami, echake washiponne, ninkuni mieli bafe wono. Banga wego!
It does get better anytime your favorite shop. It does get better anytime your favorite shop, Malcolm says, is there for you and got you covered with all your daily need items. Continue shopping on products ranging from groceries, stationery, electronics, homeware, kitchenware, furniture, home decor, electrical, and many more at low prices. Terms and conditions apply. Malcolm, where Ghana shops.
Coming from a region whose hospitality knows no bounds, a region whose alluring landscape is vast, rich, and blessed. My name is Nura, a 23-year-old graduate from the University of Ghana Business School, holding a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, and the Northern Regional Representative for this year's Ghana's Most Beautiful. As Rumi rightly said, stop acting so small. You are the entire universe in ecstatic motion. All my life, I have always yearned to be a vessel through which the lives of many are changed. The Northern region has an insane amount of talent, which I believe is highly untapped. So, through my project on arts and tourism, I seek to unleash these talents to help alleviate poverty and reduce unemployment levels in my region. Keep voting Nura to the short code *713*13#, or you can download the TV3 Reality app on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And for your pumpkin pie, now in the song to that. Thank you.
I once said, if poverty is a disease, then sharing is caring. I go Ghana man, Teshima man, or Siadia Yakunfiami on the phone. I bring you greetings. I am Ohima, 22-year graduate of Ask Media Training Institute, and I am passionate of helping the poor and the needy people. And I would like to use this year's Ghana's most beautiful platform to embark on this beautiful project. Bono mai, I feel where they are here by your crew. So keep me in this competition. Kindly dial *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app to vote. Thank you. Madam Hwase.
Banga wego.